Hi, everyone. Welcome. Let me open the discussion. Okay, now you should be able to chat. If you're arriving here, send me a little hello in the chat, and I know you're there. Hello, we have one. Hi, Khaled. Oh, here's everybody. Hi, you guys. Welcome. We'll give everyone just a few minutes to arrive, and then we will get started. Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a nice Tuesday. Hello, hello. Let me just get my presentation going up and we'll give a few more minutes for everybody else to come in. I know I was a few minutes late today. Thank you for your patience. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and share. Oh, I have to bring Sam up. Sorry, Sam. Right. That should be everything. Hi guys, welcome, welcome. We're just waiting to, voila, here is Sam. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and we will get started. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to English for Specific Purposes, week 12. So this is our last class. It's so crazy to think about it. Okay, but I have a slide where I say this is our last class. So let me get started. It's possible that some of you, even though this is the end of the series, this is the very first class you've joined for. So let me go through my class rules and my introduction. My name is Ariella Knight. I am an American living here in Algeria. I run the American Institute, which is a private English school and cultural center based in Algiers. And we at the American Institute do partnership programs with the US Embassy, like this one that you're joining for today. I am originally from Boston and I found my way to Algiers in 2018. So I've been here, it will be 4 years at the end of October. 4 full years, crazy. My professional background is both as an English teacher, but also as a program manager and a business consultant. What is English for Specific Purposes? Let me tell you, these are online free classes that we have now been running for almost 3 months. They're offered, as I said, as a partnership between the American Institute and the American Embassy. We offer them every Tuesday night, and they are, this slide, we keep forgetting to update this slide. It says, except tonight it's Wednesday, which was from a few weeks ago. So I won't say it'll be corrected next week because it's the last night tonight, but ignore that. It's a class every Tuesday, 6:30 to 8 p.m. and it is free. This is the program. So if you have not been here for all of the different weeks of the program, do not fear. We recorded every single class, similar to how we're recording this class, and you can find all the recordings on the American Institute YouTube. I will have Sam, voila, thank you, Sam. Sam shared it in the chat. Just so you guys know, the YouTube is a little bit delayed. We released them a week later. So I think right now you'll find all the way through week 9 up on the YouTube, but please be patient with us. Every week we bring one out. So next week or this Friday, you'll get the Business English for Negotiations, et cetera, et cetera. So this week we are doing academic English again. So this is our second academic English one. And today is how to write an essay. And you will see it's our last class. This is super sad. I've really enjoyed teaching this class, but I also know that this is not the end of the journey. Whether we do another partnership class with the embassy or whether we invite you our virtual students to the American Institute. I know that I will still be in Algeria, and we will hopefully have ways to engage again. So on to the class. This class will take place at an advanced intermediate level, that's B2. I'll be speaking with speed and difficulty of B2. If you do not understand, I invite you to view the recording afterwards. Every week has a different topic. Again, this is English for specific purposes. And so every week had a different theme: a cooking week, a fashion week. What else did we have? Medical English week, tourism week. We have vocabulary, we have skills, and we have guest interviews. At different points, I invite you guys to come on and chat. So get ready with the microphone, because we'll be inviting you to come up and share your ideas or your experiences with us. And sometimes we have polls, but no polls today. So there is a Q&A feature, and I see that some of you have already sent questions. Sam, this is a good moment to introduce Sam. Sam is my assistant for the class. He stays in his little black box and helps quietly. So one of the things he will do is answer questions in the Q&A. And moderate the discussion as well. But there are two questions we always get, so I answer them right away. There is no certificate for this class. We don't track attendance. We don't know who comes in or who goes out. And also it's available on YouTube. So there's no certificate. And yes, the class is recorded and you can view it on YouTube. And periodically throughout the class, Sam can send the link again. People are always looking for the link. We get it. You will also find the link in your follow-up email that will be sent to you tomorrow. We have some class rules, and this is to make sure that our class is lovely and pleasant for everyone. So we have a requirement for respect and civility, meaning that we are respectful towards each other, whether it's on microphone or in the chat. I ask that you be nice and kind to each other, because why not? We're only together for an hour and a half tonight. Let's make it a pleasant and nice experience for everyone. We don't permit any profanity. Profanity means swearing or discussing irrelevant things. Again, we're just here to talk about one thing. We have a limited amount of time. Any other topics, I'll ask you guys to leave them for after the class. Please do not send links. If you're sending links in the chat, it's possible that Sam will kindly, I always say ask you to leave, but in reality, if you're breaking the rules or if you're spamming the group, you might get booted out. So don't send any links. Let's just keep it nice and have everyone here for learning. All good. I think we can go ahead and get started. Okay, so today's agenda. We already did the welcome, the overview of class rules and curriculum. That's the program. So now we are going to be talking about academic English, writing an essay. We'll be going over what is an essay. We'll be going over how to write essays, and then we'll be providing some tips and tricks. So a little bit before we even get started about this, an English for specific purposes class, or ESP class, is usually different from an academic class. But we had an opportunity to add a few extra sessions to the ESP program. And I decided to focus us on something that I see a big need for in Algeria, which is some assistance with writing academic or more formal English. And so this is a little bit of a mix, ESP, a little bit EAP, English for academic purposes. And today we will be doing a little bit of instruction from me, and then we'll be doing a workshop. So we will be writing something together. So get ready. Now this dog I like so much more. It's a puppy. On to academic English. So we are starting things off with a discussion. You guys, when I say discussion, sometimes I'll invite you to come and speak on the microphone, and sometimes I will invite you to come and share in the chat. So for this time, I am going to ask any adventurous souls to come on microphone. And the way you do this is you raise your hand. So put a little bit of, click the raise hand button, and I will go in and call on people who want to share. So when you share on microphone, it does not show your video. There's no video option. It's only my video, and it'll be the voice of the person, the participant who's coming up. And you'll be given the option to unmute yourself. The question I'm asking is, have you ever had to write an essay? It doesn't need to be in English, just in any language, in Arabic, in French, And then tell us, what was the essay for and what was it about? Just to get the conversation started. I want to hear about some essays that you guys have already written. So I see some hands up already, and we're going to go ahead and have Nasima start us off. A brave soul to go.
Hi.
Hi, Nasima. How are you?
Good. What about you?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
All right. So, about this question, let's say that related to advanced here because I studied English for 5 years at university. So I mean, you cannot study English without writing an essay. It's academic writing for 5 years. So
this is very true.
Exactly. Let's say that I do have more experience about writing an essay, and not only essay, but also research papers and thesis as well in English.
Okay,
because
nice.
I studied English civilization and literature. So writing, okay, so what was it for? Most of my essays was about literature, about Stephen Crane, about Joseph Conrad, and literally essays, or let's say the critical analysis of some topics. So yeah, that's my answer.
Okay, very cool. Thank you, Nasima. I'm happy to have you here. You can provide some good insight for those who are more, who are newer to essay writing.
Exactly, that's why I'm here.
Amazing. All right, thank you so much. And thank you for going first.
Thank you.
All right, let's bring someone else up. So Nasim is coming in with 5 years of essay writing experience, which is amazing. We have a whole team working with us at American Institute who did these 5-year English language programs. So I'm a little bit familiar. I'm happy to have you here with us. Let's call someone else up. How about Khaled? Khaled, are you here? You'll just have to unmute yourself to join.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hello.
Happy to be with you today.
Happy to have you.
So I'm as a journalist and working in communication field. I do write an essay in Arabic and in French, but not yet in English. But I will too. That is why my target to be here today.
Amazing. Okay, so what kind of essays? What did you write those essays for when they were in French or Arabic? Were they for school? Were they for work?
Okay, it's all about new technology like TEC, all about new technology and computers and computer stuff.
Okay, very cool. Well, thank you, Khaled. Happy to have you here.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you so much. Very cool. So we've got someone who's written technical computer essays. So Khaled, you can teach me a little bit about those topics that I am not so familiar. Let's go ahead and bring up Ikram. Ikram, hold on. It's not letting me. There we go. Ikram, you can go ahead and unmute and tell us if you have ever written any essays and what they were about. Are you there? Can you guys hear Ikram? I remember last week I couldn't hear someone and everyone else could.
Hello. Hello.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. Welcome.
Hello, Miss Ariella.
Hello,
everyone.
Welcome.
I'm happy to. So concerning writing essays, as Nasima said, I used to be an English student, post-graduated. So I have written many essays.
Okay.
Especially in the field of linguistics.
Okay, interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm here to join you to learn more about maybe new techniques.
Okay. Amazing. Well, you're most welcome. Thank you so much, Ikram. I hope you enjoy.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, should we listen to one more person or should we go to the next slide? What do you think, guys? Tell me in the chat. One more next, one more next. Okay, well, there's no, I see people are using this to lobby for their own hand. I have to tell you guys, when I'm going through the list of names, I'm basically looking to do man, woman, man, woman. I'm not really noticing who I'm calling. Okay, so on that note, let's go with, how about Yassine? Yassine, you're the lucky one in the random selection. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing good today.
Thank you.
So most of my essays were part of a school project. Like in college and
Yes.
high school, we used to write essays. Most of the time it was argumentative. We had to convince other people of an idea. Most of the time about environmental change, sometimes defending people's rights.
Okay.
So we did the speeches and we sometimes talked about pollution, how to get rid of it in an essay.
Amazing.
So most of the time it was, we even did it with the group sometimes. Everyone gathers an idea. This was my
Very
part.
nice.
My experience with this.
Amazing. Thank you, Yassine. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you.
All right. So Yassine is saying that, well, two things I really liked that Yassine said was one, that there was actually group essay work, which is a very interesting way of writing, is not having to do the whole thing on your own, but working with other people. I always recommend this, at least for reviewing your writing, but why not even writing together? The other, I want to ask the chat, did you guys also write essays in high school? Because I know universities tend to require essays, especially if you're writing a thesis, but do high schools in Algeria or wherever, I don't know, whatever country people are in, did you guys have to write full-length essays? And I'm sure it won't be the same in every high school. I'm seeing yes, I'm seeing no, I'm seeing obviously, definitely, okay. It looks, oh, someone is saying even in middle school, okay. Other people are saying it was absolutely required. A couple of people are mentioning philosophy class, required in the back exam, okay. Someone said, I've been writing essays since I was 8 years old. Okay, Ebtihal is saying yes, but to be honest, it wasn't structured. Okay, well, I'm happy to hear that we have a group of people who at least are familiar with the idea of what we call long form writing. Long form writing is anything where you're writing for a long time. Okay, it's not a text, it's not an email, it's not necessarily a short poem, but it is something where you have to use a lot of words, a lot of verbiage, it's kind of a funny way to say words, to get your point across. Okay, so that was our first discussion point. Thank you to those who helped open up the discussion. Remember, at this point, we're really just exploring what is an essay. All right, so now that is exactly the question I have for you guys. So this discussion time, I want you to send me in the chat. What is an essay? In your opinion, if you had to define it or just something about it, what makes an essay an essay? Why is an essay different than other words that we might have, than report, than story? Okay, tell me what makes an essay unique. All right. I'm seeing it's a paper, it's a text full of information. Okay, some people are giving me the structure, the format. It needs an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Multiple paragraphs with a structure. Long piece of writing. People are talking, I'm seeing the word thesis. I'm seeing the word topic, very good. Suad is saying what makes an essay unique is its structure. I like that, and I do agree with that. Group of paragraphs, the content. Bilal says it answers a certain question. Okay. An essay is sentences with meaning. I like this, is very poetic, as in like other forms of writing have no meaning, but you know, a short story, sentences have meaning. So it's not just essays who have that. Okay, very cool, you guys. Let's go into what we are going to share with you about essays. So this is a very basic but complete definition for the essay. So the essay is a relatively short, formal piece of writing that tackles one single topic. I want to draw your attention to the word relatively. Relatively means it is short compared to the potential. So 200 pages is a book. An essay is shorter than this, because I know some of you have written essays that are probably 20 or 30 pages long. So it is relatively short compared to how long writing pieces can be. So essays tend to be between 1 page to maybe, I suppose, maybe 30 or 25 would be the maximum. But generally, I would say they fall around 5 to 10 pages. And it is formal. Essay writing is a formal writing technique, okay? It is usually designed for purposes of conveying information or persuading someone of information. If you're telling, or if you're thinking in your head, what kind of writing is informal? Well, it's not a letter. It's not a letter from one person to another person where you're sharing informal and personal information. It's not full of jokes, acronyms, sort of informal style language. And it is something that can be published and distanced from the person who wrote it. So someone in another city or another country can read that piece of writing. And typically an essay will tackle one single topic. It may have many different points that contribute to that topic, but the essay needs to have a point, okay? It is arguing something or is demonstrating something for the reader. So these are some famous essays, and I don't know if you guys know any of these essays, but I wanted to throw some in there. We have Joan Didion, who's one of the monumental American writers of the 20th century. She was a famous columnist, meaning she wrote columns in the magazine Vogue, but she quickly became an essay writer, and I highly recommend her. Goodbye to all that I have read. And then we have E.B. White, who I think is much more famous, but what's important here, I wanted to show you guys the different lengths. We have 9 pages in Joan Didion. We have 1 page with E.B. White. So it's still an essay, even if it's just 1 page. And Annie Dillard, we have 19 pages. Okay. We also have Sehem sharing in the chat that classic essays are those by Thoreau, Emerson. The first ones that come to mind for me are always Thoreau, because I am from Boston and Thoreau was writing in Boston. And so he's very, very famous in the Boston community. All right, we're back to discussions. So you guys already answered this, because a lot of the people who came on the microphone were talking about essays in English in an academic format. So let's keep this to the chat. I want to know, have you ever written an academic essay in English? And how was it? Did you think it was easy? Did you think it was hard? Did you think it was, I don't know, what were the challenges about it, or what were the things that you liked about it? Just, I want to hear a little bit about people who have had to write formally in English. Okay, I see no, never, yes, it was hard. Okay, someone is saying I wrote a personal statement for a university. For our definition of essay, or what we're talking about today, we're not including personal essays or personal statements. Okay, it was hard. I tried to write an article. Someone says it was difficult, but I didn't manage my time well. This is something you really need to learn. Hanan says it was a nightmare. I'm sorry, it was a nightmare, Hanan. But this is why we have the class, because it is certainly extremely challenging to write. It's okay, I should say it's challenging to write, period. And then it's very challenging to write in a second or a foreign language, okay? And then it's even more challenging to write in a specific structure, in a specific register, meaning how formal the language is, in that second or foreign language. So if you had a super hard time with it, that's completely normal. I could give the same class that I'm giving tonight to a group of Americans, because learning how to write formally is not inherent. It is something you are taught. Okay, people are saying they've only done it in French. It's very different from the French style. And sometimes I can see that people have difficulties with direct translation. Yassine is saying it's very difficult if you don't know a lot about the topic. This is true. You need to be ready to write a full page or 2 or 5 about that topic. So you need to do a lot of research first. Faisal says it was very painful as a PhD student. And others are saying it actually wasn't so hard. A couple of people here are saying, you know, it was a few pages, it wasn't terrible, it was okay. Okay. As a PhD student, you have to do this, says Miriam. Celia wrote an essay on Saturday. Okay, congratulations, Celia. Oh my gosh, you guys are sending so many messages. I can't get through them all. Waleed is saying it's hard to keep yourself in the chair and write. Has anyone else had that experience? We have something in English we call writer's block. It means that your brain completely stops providing you ideas. You can't think of words to complete your sentence. You're losing your vocabulary, and it happens to native speakers also. It's like a creativity block, and it can be terrible when you're writing. Okay, all right, you guys, thank you for sharing. So many of you have experience doing this, and you already know what I'm about to say, and I'm happy to see that because we can move even faster to the workshop stage. So an academic essay is 3 parts, and I've already seen this in the chat a number of times. We have the introduction, which is a broad idea of what the essay is about. It presents the argument. We have the body. This is evidence to support a certain point of view. By certain point of view, we mean to support your argument. And conclusion, which summarizes the main points. Okay, and now we're going to go over a couple different types of academic essays. I flew through the last slide because I think you guys already know it, but we'll come back to it in a little bit when we're actually constructing our own essay. So there are different types of academic essays. Remember, we're only doing academic essays today. So we have descriptive. This is describing something like a place, an object, or an experience in great detail. We have narrative essays, which is telling a story usually from the perspective of the writer, but possibly from another one. We have expository essays, which is an investigation. You are providing evidence and you are exposing a topic. And we have argumentative essays. And this is, I think, the one that most of you mentioned having experience in. This is persuasion. So we want to attempt to convince the reader about a point of view or about an opinion. I'm reading some of the chat that was coming in. Celia says it's the syndrome of the white page, talking about having writer's block. But okay, these are the 4 main essay types when you're talking about academic writing. But I would say, at least in the school system in the US, these are not equally treated. It is not so common that you will find a homework assignment to do a descriptive or a narrative essay. Maybe we'll do that 1 time, maybe 2 times. And then similar to how you guys have this in university, high school, the 1 person in middle school, it's almost always an argumentative essay where you're being asked to argue a point of view, or an expository essay, which is an evidence-based piece of writing where you're demonstrating the truth or the validity of a finding. This is much, much more common. And then descriptive and narrative essays become more interesting when we're talking about, for example, I want to say scholarship programs here in Algeria, and someone who mentioned personal statements. We won't be going over this type of essay today. We're focusing on argumentative, but that is where that would follow, or where that would fall. Okay, tell me, what is your favorite type of essay and why? The favorite type and why? I see some people asking, what about the scientific essay? And we would put that under expository. Expository is all about having an evidence-based piece of writing to support a finding, okay, to support validity, to support the truth of some kind. So a scientific essay is also to prove this, to say the results of the experiment were X. Here's the evidence to show you that this is what the results were, and here's what the results meant. Okay, I have someone saying expository essays are the hardest ones. Ines is asking, is argumentative the same as persuasive? Yes, those are synonyms. Someone says they like expository, someone else argumentative, someone else narrative, argumentative, descriptive, argumentative. So it looks to me like we have an even split between those who like an expository essay and an argumentative essay. Although some are going for narrative. Narrative essay, I love stories. If you like narrative essays, check out Joan Didion. Those are wonderful, wonderful essays. The narrative essay, because it's exciting. The descriptive essay, you can be more creative and it's not boring. Okay, argumentative, because I love to defend my point of view. Very good. Okay, honestly, I see every answer in here. So I think we have a kind of even distribution of essay preference. So we're going to talk a little bit about different types of arguments. The reason we're focusing on the argumentative essay is for two things. Number one, I believe it is the most popular style of writing you will be asked to produce in various settings, especially if you're looking to go further into education or study abroad in English. You need to be able to produce a strong argumentative essay. And number two, because our writing workshop at the end of this class has a few really interesting, I think interesting, argumentative essay topics. So when you are presenting an argumentative essay, so you are presenting a persuasion, we have two different types. You can have inductive arguments or you can have deductive arguments. It's all about the order in which you present your information. We can call this a bottom-up approach and a top-down approach. This is an inductive essay. You start with something very specific, maybe an example, and you slowly introduce your conclusion. This little tiny example that I mentioned at the first paragraph, the first sentence of the first paragraph, by the end of the essay, I've explained to you its significance, what it is proving or showing you, and then therefore the theory that I believe. So for example, an inductive essay would start by saying, let's take the example that Yassine gave us about pollution. We can say, we can start by talking about a specific example of pollution. So the amount of pollution in Algiers has surpassed X% in this year. We're starting with a very specific case, okay? And then we will start to build and build and build until at the very end, we introduce our conclusion. Our conclusion might be, there needs to be political action on pollution. Our conclusion might be pollution levels are reaching a point of no return, and here are the main consequences. But it could really lead to any argument. It could also be an argument about weather patterns, right? You take a small example and throughout the essay, you explain why that example is important and what it is showing you. Okay, so this one is a little bit you bury the lead. You don't tell the person immediately what your big thesis is. You discover it, or you guide them through discovering it. That is called inductive. Next, we have deductive, or I'm emphasizing it to rhyme like inductive, deductive, but the actual correct pronunciation is deductive. Okay, so a deductive essay is the reverse. You start with a general, you start with your thesis. So in the pollution case, we might say, at the very beginning, pollution levels are overtaking our ecosystems and we need better strategies to respond. That's the first thing I tell the reader. They immediately know what I'm going to talk about and what my argument is going to be. And then I use the entire essay to give you more and more specific evidence for why this is the case. Okay, and I end with those little evidential parts that support my thesis. So I give you the thesis and then I support it. In an inductive, I give you the support and I end on my thesis. Me personally, I think I prefer the deductive method. I'm the kind of person I like to tell you exactly up front what I want to talk about, and then I give you my reasons and my justifications. I think this is even how I communicate in verbally. I will sit down with someone, I'll say, hey, I want to talk to you about improving our communication system. I think it needs to be better because we're facing these issues. And then I go through every single little issue. So that's a deductive style of conversation. Inductive would be someone coming over and saying, hey, can we talk? Did you notice last week I asked this and it never happened? Okay. And then did you notice another time that you asked me something and then that never happened? Okay. So you slowly, and then by the end of the conversation, you say, I think we have a communication problem, as evidenced by everything we've talked about. It's interesting. I wonder if culturally, different cultures have different styles of introducing their ideas. I think the more sort of, I don't want to say aggressive, but confrontational style is that deductive, like, here's what I think, here's why. And I think some other cultures like to go a little slower. Here are things I've noticed. And then you arrive together at the conclusion. It's less confrontational. All right, you guys. So what do you prefer? Oops, before we get to parts of the essay. Deductive is easier to understand. I think we use deductive. Deductive is better. Waleed saying inductive sounds like Neil Gaiman style. Well, Neil Gaiman is a fantasy author. So anyone like Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling, Neil Gaiman, Stephen King. Inductive is how you create suspense, mystery, wonder. So it is more, it can feel more beautiful. Narrative style writing is often inductive, where you don't know exactly the conclusion until the author takes you there. So it's a very experiential style. And so for that reason, I prefer it for a creative piece of writing as opposed to an argumentative essay. Okay, I hope I'm not persuading you guys to my side. Everyone's saying deductive. Is it because I said I like deductive? Possibly. All right. Next, what are the different parts of an essay? We're going to go through because I just want to show you the hamburger, and we already showed you the parts before. So introduction, body, and conclusion. If you guys were here last week, you remember my paragraph hamburger. And the reason I brought a hamburger back to this lesson is because it is very, very similar. I want to make the point that an essay is extremely similar to a paragraph. If you were not here last week, do not worry. If you were, you might start connecting the dots. But essentially, a paragraph and an essay have a similar shape, similar to hamburgers, in that they need to have an introduction, then they need something in the middle, and they need to have a conclusion. And the reason we love hamburgers, not only because I'm American, is because if anything is missing from the hamburger, it is not a hamburger. If you have a hamburger and there's no top, okay, it's not a hamburger. It's effectively a broken hamburger. It doesn't make sense. So from an essay perspective, if you do not introduce what you're talking about, it is fundamentally flawed and you're going to lose your readers. If you have a hamburger with no fillings, well, you've got nothing at all. That's similar to an essay. An introduction, a conclusion, no evidence to support anything you're saying. That's not an essay. That's a random introduction and conclusion. And if you don't have a conclusion, all your food is falling out. Your essay ends up unsupported. I don't know if I took the analogy of the hamburger a little too far, but me personally, I think it is helpful because it shows you how simple this is. I don't want you to get stressed thinking that there are very technical rules and guidelines for essays. There are tricks to make it smoother. There's vocabulary to help you sound more professional, but I'm not lying when I say to you, the majority of essays that I read actually do not follow the hamburger. They might have nice vocabulary, but they have almost no evidence. There's no middle, there's no meat to what they're saying. That's actually a phrase we use in English, even with no hamburger analogy happening. We will say the meat of the issue, meaning like the big part or the dense thing we're talking about. So beautiful language with no supporting evidence, the beautiful language doesn't matter. Simple language that follows the hamburger, it's beautiful. You will get your point across. I think if I could give you one thing to be to focus on in your English academic writing is less on the beauty of the words and more on the coherence of the format. Keep the format, follow the rules, and your reader will more easily be able to follow your argument. English is a language of efficient communication. So if you are not efficiently communicating your idea, it does not matter to me how nice your vocabulary is. And I think that that is fundamentally different. I think in French and in Arabic, beautiful language matters a lot. In English, it does not matter as much as format. Okay. So here's the outline that we're talking about. This is the hamburger, but in a less fun picture. Introduction, body paragraph 1, 2, 3, conclusion. You can have 4 body paragraphs. You can have 5 body paragraphs. You can have as many as you want, but ultimately you need something that begins, something that proves, and something that ends. Before we go into our workshop, we're going to do a little bit of vocabulary. And I have heard a couple people in the chat asking about thesis, and there's a reason I didn't answer, because we are teaching you that vocabulary word right now. Although I see actually a few questions here. Ibtisam is saying, can a cover letter count as an argumentative essay? I would not put those in the same category, but you will find. So anything that comes into a job application or a university application, I would hesitate to think of as an academic essay, because your evidence is different. Your evidence is not necessarily provable in the same way, and it's a very personal, it's a personal piece of writing. That being said, you do still want to follow the hamburger. You want to introduce what you're going to say about yourself, and you do want to provide evidence to support what you're talking about, but the evidence will look different. Instead of, clearly there's pollution because, here's a quote from a meteorologist and here's a measure, right? You have actual hard evidence. When you're writing about yourself and you're telling an admissions committee or a job, I'm a reliable person, you don't exactly have a statistical evidence for this, but you should still mention examples that prove it. So I saw a couple questions in there about where do personal statements fall, where do cover letters fall. I would not count them the same, but lessons from cover letter writing and from academic essay, they will complement and help each other. Okay. Someone else, I saw another question and now I have just lost it. Yassine says, can we have 2 body paragraphs? You can, but I don't recommend it. If you only have 2 body paragraphs, it suggests you only have 2 pieces of evidence. Try to find a third. The expectation is that anytime you're proving something, you should have at least 3 things that demonstrate that point. That is the expectation. And if you're not meeting the expectation, you better have a really good reason. And just know that it will be interpreted as a failure to find a third point. And 1 body paragraph, even worse. You could only find 1 thing. So do you even know this at all? If I say, I'm a fun person, this is well as cover letter example, I'm a fun person. And my example is 1 person told me, you go, okay. But if I can say this person said it and this person said it and this person said it, you believe me. So take that and put it in an academic context. You need more than 1 thing and really more than 2 things to prove a point. Okay, Bilal is saying, what about a presentation like the one you're doing now? Can we say it is an essay? No, we cannot. An essay is written and it is only written. I am doing an oral presentation. It is not an essay. I'm showing you a PowerPoint. A PowerPoint is not an essay. An essay is on a piece of paper. It is written in text. There are no pictures. There are no, well, there can be graphs, I suppose, for a scientific essay, but truly it is a long form piece of writing. And sometimes it might look like a book. We have books of essays. So that is what you should be picturing in your head, pure and simple writing. Someone's asking, after writing a statement of purpose, what should I do? I suppose you should submit it to whoever requested it, the university, etc. Okay. All right. Now we're going to start the game. I saw a lot of questions coming in, so I wanted to take a quick pause. Okay. So for those of you, it's your first class. This is a vocabulary matching game. So these are the 4 vocabulary word or phrases. So we have thesis statement, we have topic sentence, indentation, and citation. And I am going to pull up descriptions. And every time a description pulls up, take a minute to read it. And then you guess, is the description describing A, thesis statement, B, topic sentence, C, indentation, or D, citation? Do not stress. Some people will be faster than others, but take your time, maybe close the discussion, read it, think about it. That's how you'll get the most out of it, and then submit your guess. All right, here we go. Number 1, a sentence that identifies the main idea of the paragraph. What is this? I see A, I see B, I see C. Are we going to get all the way to D? B, B, B. All right, well, the majority of you put B and you would be right. A sentence that identifies the main idea of the paragraph is called the topic sentence. For those of you who put A, I want to draw your attention to the word paragraph in the definition, okay? When we are talking about a topic sentence, we are talking a sentence within a paragraph. It is not a topic sentence of an essay. It is a topic sentence of a paragraph. Next. A sentence at the end of the introduction, which specifies the main claim and previews the structure of the rest of the essay. It's a long one. I'm going to read it again. We're looking for the, this is the definition for what? It is a sentence at the end of the introduction, which specifies the main claim and previews the structure of the rest of the essay. I see a lot of A, I see some D, I've got some C. Those are all the ones that are left. Someone said introduction, but that's not an option, so it can't be that. I see really a whole combination. I'm not sure which one is winning, maybe A. I think the biggest competition is between A and D. Okay, well, congratulations to those who put A. This is defining a thesis statement. So I want to take a minute here to describe this because this is a very important vocabulary word for essay writing. The thesis statement, which can also be called simply the thesis, is the moment when you state your argument. Okay, so the thesis of an essay is the argument of the essay. If I want to say, let's go back to my pollution example. If I want to say, I don't know, we need better responses to prevent pollution in my essay. That's the argument of my essay. Well, then that is also my thesis statement. My thesis statement states my argument. Okay, you could even substitute in thesis statement, argument statement, but we don't say that. We say thesis statement or thesis. Okay, so it is almost always found as the last sentence of the first paragraph, but it should definitely be found in the first paragraph. Okay, and it often hints at what will come in the rest of the essay. So perhaps in my thesis statement, I might say, you know, due to rising sea levels and increased greenhouse gases and population growth, pollution has reached unprecedented levels and we need to do something to fight it. So in my thesis statement itself, I've actually said the 3 examples that I will then discuss in my paragraphs. So let me try to remember what I just said and repeat it so you can hear exactly how the thesis statement previewed the structure of my essay. So my statement was rising sea levels, increased population growth. What was the third thing I talked about? Rising sea levels, increased greenhouse gases. So sea levels, population growth, greenhouse gases have led to an increase in pollution, and we should do something about it. So I have told my reader my argument and what my evidence is. So now I know body paragraph 1 will be about rising sea levels, body paragraph 2 will be about population growth, and body paragraph 3 will be about greenhouse gases. Okay, so I'm using this example to demonstrate how the thesis states your argument, and it can also preview what your essay or how your essay will be written. Okay, next, a quote or reference to a book, paper, or author. A quote or reference to a book, paper, or author. It has to be C or D, right? We've only got C or D left. I see a little bit of C, but I see mostly D. You guys sure? Okay. It's D. Good job. Citation is when we are quoting someone. So a citation is between what we call quotation marks. This is the hand signal we do for quotation marks. We go like this. I don't know why, maybe I also turned my head, but I always do. Doot, doot. But those are actually the marks that you will see in the paper. And we can use citing as a verb. Citing the evidence of this famous scientist who said, quote, and we put the quote and we end the quote, okay? This is a very, very important part of having supporting evidence in your essays. I saw a really good question right before we asked this, which is from, I think, Yassine, who said, do we have a thesis statement in every paragraph? The answer is no. You have one thesis statement in the essay. That's it. One thesis statement in the essay. Okay, in the paragraphs, you have topic sentences that introduce what you'll talk about. But what you are talking about comes always back to your thesis statement. All right, good question. I don't know why I'm feeling very itchy. Okay. The last one, I don't know how we'll guess what the meaning is, but here's the definition: a blank space between a margin and the beginning of a line of a text. So who wants to guess? Obviously, there's only one answer left, so it has to be C. Okay, and I have here a little image to show you guys if you're not quite sure what this looks like. Here is an indentation. So this is an example of an essay. It is an argumentative essay called "We Should Not All Be Uniform." And as you can see at the beginning of the essay, we have an indentation. On your keyboard of your computer, you hit tab. Okay, and it automatically spaces. So you should not be hitting the space bar many times. There is a set distance. If you notice, this distance and this distance is exactly the same. It's not just random distances, each time a little bit of white, a little less white, a little more here. It should be uniform. It does not mean anything specific except that it's a new paragraph. Okay? This is the expected format in a formal essay. A new paragraph has an indentation. It starts on a new line and it has an indentation. Okay? Sophian's asking me if I can go back. Oh, wait a second. Oh, we'll come back to that. Okay? If you guys want to take a picture, go for it. This is all recorded. It'll be on YouTube, but these are extremely important vocabulary words about essay writing. Thesis statement, topic sentence, indentation, and citation. All right, let's keep going. So here in our example, we're actually going to take a second to look at this example essay. It's just the beginning of the essay, as we know, because the essay will have introduction, body paragraphs, and conclusion. And here we only have introduction and a little bit of a body paragraph. But I'm going to go ahead and read this out loud. and then we're going to find the thesis, and we're going to find the topic sentence. Okay, so the topic is, or the title, I should say, is "We should not all be uniform." We begin. Every day, millions of teenagers spend between 6 and 8 hours in America's high schools. They sit at their desks, listen to their teachers, and do their schoolwork. In some of these schools, however, they are also forced to dress in school uniforms. This restriction is really too much. In America's high schools, students should not be forced to wear uniforms because they take away a student's sense of individuality. They do not allow for self-expression, and they absolutely do not save families any money. That was my first paragraph, introductory paragraph. Now we'll read a little bit of the next paragraph. First of all, students should not wear uniforms because they take away a student's sense of individuality. Imagine this: 30 students sit in desks in a small classroom. Each student wears tan pants and a white shirt. They sit with their school books and papers in front of them. They all look exactly alike. Does this seem right? Of course not. We are all individuals. And then it continues, but that's all we have to analyze in front of us. So without discussing the topic, which I think is fun and interesting, and it is a big topic in the US because some schools require uniforms, but some don't. I want to ask you guys, when you see the very, very first sentence here, the sentence that starts with "every day," what is this sentence? What do we call this sentence? Every day, millions of teenagers spend between 6 and 8 hours in America's high schools. What is it? What's the name of this sentence? Okay, Ines is the first one to get it. This is a topic sentence. This is a topic sentence. It is not a thesis statement. In fact, you can see very clearly that this doesn't tell me anything about the argument. This person is simply using a fact to open their essay. This is very smart because a fact, especially something like this, which has, I don't know, a big number, like millions of teenagers, this fact helps bring the reader's attention to the topic. But just from reading this sentence, I have no idea what the author's argument will be. In fact, they could talk about school lunches, they could talk about homework, they could talk about teenager behavior. Okay, so this cannot be the thesis. It doesn't show me the argument. It is simply a topic sentence for that paragraph. Okay, thank you. Next, who can tell me the first 2 words of the thesis statement? Now I want the thesis statement. You don't have to write the whole statement because the sentences are long, but what are the first 2 words of the thesis statement? I'm going to let you guys answer. So type in your answer. I won't tell you what's right. And after a minute or so, I'll speak. Many different answers coming in. Okay, so as a reminder, before I tell you the answer, don't forget this, hold this in your head. We're going to review very quickly what is a thesis statement, okay? Oh no, I hope you didn't see it. I'm always doing that. Okay, a thesis statement, follow the orange. It is a sentence at the end of the introduction. It is at the end of the introduction. Number 1. Number 2, it specifies the main claim, meaning the general argument, and previews the structure of the rest of the essay. So thinking of this, I want to go back and you tell me if you change your answer. We want a sentence at the end of the introduction which specifies the main claim and previews the structure. Do you want to change? Does anyone want to change their answer? I'll give you another minute to read. Some of you are pointing out that I showed you the answer. Well, maybe someone didn't see me show you the answer, okay? Okay, and I'm still getting some various answers. There we go. Abdul Hafid says that he did not see the answer. Okay, you guys, so let me show you. The yellow is the thesis statement. After we went back and reread the definition of thesis statement, a lot of you got it right. Great job. If you did not get it right, that is okay. We are just learning. And this one is designed to trick you. Okay, the thesis statement is at the end of the introduction. In this introduction, it's the last sentence, which starts in America's high schools. So the correct answer was in America's high schools. I'm quoting myself, I suppose, with my fingers. Not only is this at the end of the introduction, but it also says the argument of the whole essay. We now know that this essay will argue that students should not be forced to wear uniforms. We now know that that is exactly what the essay is about. This whole essay will argue students should not be forced to wear uniforms. Khalas, that is the argument. Now we know it. Good. As a reader, I can now follow. I know exactly what the author is saying. Then he or she uses the word because. Okay, this is interesting because we already know the argument. The argument is students shouldn't wear uniforms. Now the author is showing us the evidence. They are showing us what the next paragraphs will describe, and they list 3 things. Number 1, they take away a student's sense of individuality. This means the first paragraph will be about a student's sense of individuality. Number 2, they do not allow for self-expression. So the second paragraph will be about self-expression. And number 3, they do not save families any money. So the third paragraph will be about not saving families money. So this thesis statement checks all of the boxes. It's in the introduction, it shows us the argument, and it outlines the structure. A lot of you guys mentioned the topic sentence of the next paragraph. So I'm happy that we already had this planned to highlight the difference. The topic sentence is just about 1 paragraph. This is our first example that will support the argument. So this one is about individuality. The first example of this argument is that uniforms take away a student's sense of individuality. The topic sentence of the paragraph, therefore, states the argument of that paragraph, not of the essay. That is the difference. The topic sentence of the second paragraph supports the argument only of the paragraph. And you see that because they mention individuality, which is only something that will be talked about in that paragraph. I hope talking through writing, I prefer when I lead writing workshops, I'm sitting and you're all around me and we all have pens and we're writing together. So I'm repeating myself a lot in hopes that it's making it clearer. But truly, I hope this emphasizes for you the amount of clarity we seek in an English essay. There's repetition of words, individuality. There's very obvious, first of all, in the first paragraph. That's great. You can say first of all in the first paragraph, second of all in the second paragraph, third of all in the third paragraph. We emphasize, we prefer clarity over beautiful language. So do not spend your time thinking about your language. Spend your time thinking, am I following the hamburger? And when someone comments, your language isn't so beautiful, you can say to them, but is my argument clear? And if your argument is clear, and only then can you start to work on your language. Okay, let me see if I have any questions over here. because I know that this is pretty technical. Questions. Umema is asking about statement of purpose. I think I mentioned that about 20 minutes ago, Umema. Difference between statement of purpose and essay. Ines, what is the point of an indentation? Ines, there's no point. There's 0 point. Just do it. It's a format. It's an expectation. You have to do it. If you do not do it, your paragraph has not started. I suppose the point is it's a new paragraph. But, you know, some of these things you don't need to know the inspiration, but you do have to do. An indentation is one of those. Okay. Can the writer of an essay give his point of view and when? Well, Sidali, this person, their entire essay is their point of view. But what you will notice is they do not use the personal pronoun. This person believes that students should not wear uniforms. So they are providing their personal point of view. But your personal point of view is not evidence. It does not support the evidence of your argument. My personal point of view could be that I love uniforms. That doesn't mean that they're good for students. It also doesn't mean that they're bad for students. In fact, it doesn't mean much. My personal opinion is only related to myself. So the way that your personal opinion comes out in the essay is in the argument, but you cannot use yourself or your own opinion as evidence. So one of the things that we tell you guys to avoid in essay writing is the personal pronoun entirely. Khalid says, can we change the order? Yes, absolutely. You choose the order of your evidence based on what you think is the most compelling. A motivational letter is considered an essay. So Brahim, that's similar to Umema's comment. I know that you guys are perhaps most concerned with cover letters, motivational letters, personal statements. So I'll repeat it one more time, but they are not considered the same thing, but they have a similar structure. So you would do well to follow the hamburger in that you make sure that you have evidence for what you're stating. So a motivational letter should say, you know, you should hire me because I'm organized. And then you give evidence of being organized because I'm always on time. I don't know, maybe that's an example of something. I'm punctual or I respect rules. And then you, as an example, I'm always on time. And the third one, I'm really qualified to work here, and you list your qualifications. So this evidence or examples supporting what you say is useful no matter what you're writing. If you're just claiming something randomly and you don't give an example why, you haven't shown the reader why they should believe you. If you say, I really want this job, I'll go, okay, it's easy to write that. But if you say, I really want this job because it fits with my long-term goals, because it would give me the skills I really need, because, right? You need evidence for everything you say. Let's see what else. Yassine says, so in the thesis, we need to mention our point of view and a summary of our arguments. Exactly. Although I would slightly switch the words. We need to mention our argument. Okay. I think argument is better than point of view, because it's not just our point of view that we're describing. We are stating something we believe. I believe we should not have uniforms, and I believe the evidence supports this. So it's not just what I think or what I see, it's evidence-based. And yeah, a summary then of the examples you will use. Lubna, the reference we mentioned in the essay or by the end. So if you are ever referring to someone else's work, so you're citing their work or you're citing a study, usually you reference them directly in the essay itself. You do not wait for the end. Okay, Nadia says, why is this sentence the thesis and not the previous sentence? The previous sentence is, this restriction is too much. So I would say this sentence demonstrates some sort of level of the tone. This is, to me, it shows that the tone of the author is going to be kind of not extreme, but it's using persuasive language, and persuasive language is slightly emotional. This is really too much. You picture someone putting their hands on the desk when they say that. It's not telling me anything about their argument. If you want to know if something is a thesis statement, you should delete everything else and only look at that statement. and then tell me what is the essay about. If you delete everything and all I see, I don't even see the title. I don't see the title of the essay. I don't know the topic. And I read, this restriction is really too much. I have zero idea what this is about. Are we talking about coronavirus restrictions? Are we talking about, I don't know, legal, some sort of law that we don't like? I have no concept. The thesis statement has to be able to, on its own, not with surrounding sentences, on its own, tell me the argument. I hope that is helpful. Yassine is saying, should we choose the most important argument first or the least important? That's personal preference, but I recommend, well, I think it depends. Me, I usually use the most important first, or the strongest. So sometimes you have 3 examples, but they're not equal. So for my pollution example about how pollution has gotten really bad, maybe I have a scientific fact. So someone, a climate scientist, has measured the level of pollution in the sky, and I have statistics and I have a quote. That's really, really strong evidence. Maybe my next piece of evidence is there's been an increase in respiratory illness. So people are having trouble breathing. It's not as strong because it's a little distant, right? People trouble breathing, but is it connected to pollution? So it's not as strong as an evidence from a scientist that pollution is increasing. So I prefer to start with the biggest one first. But this is a little bit where deductive versus inductive writing comes in. If you want to start with your kind of smallest example and lead on your big one, like the big wham, there, look at that. That is a more inductive style of writing where you start small and you go big. Deductive is you start big and you go small. So personal preference, and also it will depend based on the topic at hand. Okay, Buelam is saying the writer isn't showing the appropriate structure of the essay. Buelam, I disagree. The writer is showing 3 examples. I don't see any reason why those are inappropriate for the essay. I mean, it's a choice, right? This writer chose the examples that they wanted to talk about. They want to talk about these 3. That's where point of view and perspective comes through in an essay. It doesn't come through in using the I pronoun. You never say I think in an argumentative essay, but your choice of examples is demonstrates what you find the most important. The fact that they list 1, 2, 3 examples, that's showing the appropriate structure of the essay, and I highly recommend it. When you think about formatting for essay writing, think of it as being a guide for your reader. Hey reader, you're about to read about this, this, and this. Go, okay, now I'm organized and I'm ready to read about those 3 things in the order they're mentioned as well. Can anyone write an essay? Sure, anyone can write an essay. There's no rules. Well, there's rules to essays, but there's no limits to who's allowed to write them. Abdul Hafid says, is it better to say I believe than I think? Abdul Hafid, don't say either. Essays do not use the personal pronoun. I'm sure you guys are going to find some examples where they use the personal pronoun, especially a descriptive essay where someone's describing their own past. But as a start, as a baseline, the basic essay is not, I think this. It is stating something should happen. Something should change. This law is wrong because these people are amazing because this. I don't think they're amazing. I don't believe they're amazing. I'm proving to you that they're amazing with evidence. And the word I is not in my essay. Okay, that's a big first step in writing these essays, is remove yourself from it entirely. Marwa says, are we supposed to be neutral in the conclusion? Absolutely not. No. Your essay is not neutral. Your essay has a point. So in your conclusion, you say, students should not be forced to wear uniforms. It's the exact same thing in the thesis. The whole essay is showing something to be true. You are saying students should not be forced to wear uniforms. And in your mind, this is a fact. This is truth. Well, maybe a fact is too strong, but this is what you are arguing. And in the conclusion, you say, in conclusion, students should not be forced to wear uniforms. This is not an argumentative essay or a persuasive essay, picks one side. You should not only can you, the question was, are we supposed to be neutral? But in fact, you should absolutely not be neutral in your conclusion. Topic sentence and the other periods. Should we make topic sentence other parts of essay? There are periods that make the topic sentence clear just because it's one sentence. It does have to be one sentence. That's fine. All right, you guys, I'm seeing so many more questions. I love them all, but we have some cool, oh my gosh, it's 7:50. We have some cool other slides. I'm just gonna go through them quickly. And then I wanted to do some writing together, but I can see that you guys have tons and tons of questions. So I'd rather come back to your questions, answer them in the chat, and then maybe next time, if we have more classes, we can do more writing workshops. So save your questions and keep sending them, and I'll come back to the chat in a second. So a couple of things that I want to mention before we close. Oh my gosh, the time just flew by. Transitions. So when you have an essay, you have at a minimum 5 paragraphs. These paragraphs should not sound like separate pieces of writing smashed together. So what you need are transitions. Transitions are words or sentences that connect the idea from one paragraph into what is coming in the second paragraph. This is a way to make your essay smooth and coherent. Coherent means well-planned and easy to follow and clear. Transitions are words or phrases that connect ideas together and lead the reader from one point to another. So we don't have any time to do these questions, but we have one more game for you guys. And this, I hope, will be very useful for those who sometimes find themselves stuck for the right English word to go from idea to idea. So I'm going to show you a bunch of categories where we'll use transition phrases. And you are going to guess what category a word goes into. Sounds confusing, just follow me. So the first category is when we're talking about agreement or addition or things that are similar. So you can imagine transitioning like there's evidence 1 and also evidence 2. So the and also would be a transition of addition, similarity, or agreement. We have examples, support, and emphasis. Okay, the most obvious one for this would be, for example. We have transition words that do that help conclude or summarize or restate ideas. We have transition words that show the effect or the consequence of something. Some that show opposition or contradiction between two ideas. Some that show the time or the sequence or the order. And some that show cause, condition, and purpose. I know this is a lot in front of you, so we won't go quickly in the game, but these are your categories. Now, I want you to place the transition word or phrase into the right category. This is the first one. It's a phrase, and the phrase is, for example. Where, in what category do we put for example? I realize we should have put A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But for now, you can write B, you can write 2, 3, C, 4, D. Okay, I see second one, I see 2, I see B. Okay, good. You guys are writing examples. Beautiful. So this one is a transition word that we use when we want to start to show examples. It's very important. If I just instantly start to list examples, but I haven't said, for example, it might confuse the reader. Next, because. Because. Take your time. I see people saying last, which is 7. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Good. Anything else? Number 1. I see someone saying number 1. 2 people saying number 1. Someone else saying number 3, conclusion. Someone saying 4. Effect, consequence. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of 1 and I'm seeing a lot of 7 and 4. Okay, let's see where we put it. We put it in the last one, which is the cause or the condition or the purpose. I want to go out to eat because I'm hungry. My condition is hunger. My purpose is going out to eat. The cause of one thing is leading to something else. Very good. And as you guys mentioned, sometimes they can fit into multiple categories. This is not a perfect science, but it's a general game to learn transition words. Next, therefore. Therefore. I got a lot. I got 1, 6, 3, and 4, and 5, and 7. That's all of the ones. Therefore, imagine I'm saying, let's pick an example topic. Dogs are better than cats because they are nicer and they are happier and they like me more. Therefore, dogs are better than cats. All right, let's see. Effect, result, consequence, number 4. Okay, as a consequence of the examples or as a result, therefore, this and this and this. Very good. Overall, overall. Overall, I'm a dog person. I see lots of 3, I see 5, 6, 1. I think this game is hard because there's a lot of words. It's hard to read through them, but you guys are doing great. Someone or a couple people are getting it right every time. Very good. It's number 3. That was the majority of what you put also. Conclusion or summary or reinstatement, a very good word to use in your conclusions. Next, meanwhile. Meanwhile, I see 6, I see 4, I see 1, 5. I see a lot of 5 and 6. All right, is it a contradiction word or is it a time and sequence word? All right, 6 is winning, which is correct. Meanwhile is, oh, it's 6. I thought it would be a contradiction. Okay. So this is evidence that these words can fit into more than one category. So in the sense of doing order, one thing is happening, meanwhile, another thing is happening. You can also use meanwhile as a contradiction. So I accept answers 5 and 6 on this slide. As a contradiction, you would say, well, let's find one in an argumentative essay. Like some of the students are eager to go on field trips. Meanwhile, another set of students hate going on field trips. Okay, showing that there are opposing viewpoints happening at the same time. So the 2 are correct. Good. Furthermore, I have 1, I have 6, I have 5. Number 1, furthermore is always going to be in addition or something similar coming after something else. Very good. In brief. In brief. I have 3, I have 5, I have 1. Someone is saying summary, someone's saying contradiction. Here's the answer. Very good, it's number 3. In brief is what we're using when we are concluding an argument. After I've spent many, many words, then in brief, here is my conclusion. In order to. 7, 6, 5. Those look like the 3. In order to is number 7. Very good. Cause, condition, or purpose. Next, these are synonyms: in spite of or despite, meaning the same thing. In spite of or despite. 5, contradiction. 7, but mostly 5. Very good. Finally, we've got number 5. That is opposition or contradiction. However, five. Almost everyone's saying number 5 for however. Okay, let's see. Very good. And that was it. Okay, you guys, next time we're going to do some writing together. I would have loved to do it, but an hour and a half is simply not enough time. So we're going to go to 2 final points. Something that you need to know about writing. Well, let me pause. Good job on the game. You guys did great. There were a couple that went into multiple categories, like meanwhile, which I stand by. But for the most part, those are really valuable words to know when you're doing essays, because to have a clear, logical essay, you need those transition words so that your reader can follow you. Now, plagiarism. Plagiarism is when you take someone else's work and you present it as your own, okay? This is when you are copying someone's idea or you are referencing someone's work, but you do not mention them. So instead of saying, as Martin Luther King said, and you do a quote, you take it as if it's your own quote, okay? You are essentially stealing someone's idea. Plagiarism is really easy to detect. It used to be hard when we were handwriting essays or before the internet became the metaverse, but now it is extremely easy to detect. So professors will often put essays into a computer program that will search to see, are there a lot of similar statements or phrases in this essay to something else that exists? So it is it is not a good idea to plagiarize because you will most likely be caught. The other thing about plagiarism is that it is considered a moral failure. So if you are applying to a university in the United States or another country, and you have been caught plagiarizing, they may not accept you, even if you have good grades, even if you are an athlete on the sports team they want. Plagiarism is considered a very bad sign about someone's character. So it's more serious than other types of rule breaking. And if you are caught plagiarizing, you will not be considered. It's not the type of fault where someone will call you and say, hey, can we just talk about this plagiarism? We really like you, but you plagiarized. No, if they saw that you plagiarized on anything, they will throw your application out and you will not hear from them again. Plagiarism is a form of cheating. It's very serious. And the reason I bring this up so harshly is because I think in other languages, especially in Arabic, it's very common to use the words of another author and it's more accepted. In English, it is absolutely not accepted unless you credit them. When in doubt, give the credit. Okay, the rule of when is an idea considered a general idea and not one person's idea is if you can find it in 3 or more sources. So if you find 3 or more people who say an idea, then you can say, okay, it's a general idea, I can use it. If you're only finding it in 1 or 2 sources, you need to cite their work. And eventually, if you become a famous academic and scientist and author, you wouldn't want people stealing your ideas and pretending they're yours either. Formatting. Formatting is also extremely serious in English. We are huge sticklers, which means very specific and precise about formatting. It goes back a little bit to what Ines is asking. She says, what is the point of the indentation? And I simply said, there's really no point except that it's the rule. It is the rule. So you need to do it. You need to pay attention to indentation. You need to pay attention to the paper size, to the font size, to the margin size, if you need page numbers or not, to the punctuation, to comma, to semicolons. In English, we can be very forgiving of some types of mistakes, but we are not forgiving of formatting mistakes in essays, because we consider this more basic level of knowledge that anyone can have. Once you know how to indent, it takes 3 seconds. So we're not very patient with formatting mistakes. And then finally, a few tips for essay writing. This is something we've talked about in the class. Do not address the reader or use personal pronouns. Analyze the question and the prompt to know exactly what is expected of the answer. This is something that, for those of you asking about personal statements, I see this a lot, where the prompt will say, describe something specific. Describe a time you were a leader. And the essay that is written is not about leadership. It seems dumb, like who would do that? Of course, I just write what they ask me to write. But sometimes maybe we start by answering the question, but we end somewhere else because writing is hard. It takes a lot of time. We get frustrated and we lose the beginning of we lose the prompt. We forget what got us started. So always remember to return to the prompt. And so your essay actually answers the question. Cite your sources. This is about plagiarism. Always, always, when in doubt, cite. Cite a lot. It's better to cite too much than not at all. Okay, before we finish, I promised you guys I'd come back and look at your questions. We're technically over time, but it's our very last class. And so I want to answer any and all questions you have about essays. So I'm going to go back up here. Oh, I see someone asking. I did see this. Mohammed was asking, can we go back to the screen about transition words? Here you go. If you guys want to take a screenshot or a picture of this, these are really great transition words and phrases, and these are their purposes. And again, this is all going online soon. Oh, someone's saying we don't accept plagiarism in Arabic. Let me clarify. When I said in Arabic, you can cite other people's ideas. I mean that what is considered plagiarism in English, like the way you write the sentence, is not always considered plagiarism in other languages. And when I was working at a local university here and I saw a lot of examples of plagiarisms, it was described to me, perhaps not fully correctly, that in Arabic, it's very common to cite people's ideas. And if you've mentioned, for example, if you've mentioned their name at the beginning of the essay, you can use their words or their language throughout the whole essay. Whereas in English, every time you use that person's words, you have to re-say their name and add the quotation marks. It was more an example of saying what we consider plagiarism in English is not always considered plagiarism in other languages. And I bring that up not to criticize Arabic, but simply to say that if you are plagiarizing, it could be by accident. Or it could be because you've received your training in another language. It could be, in that sense, completely innocent. You're not trying to cheat, but you simply have other training. So it's important to know that in English, plagiarism may look different than the plagiarism guidelines you received in other languages. Okay. Well, you guys, I'm not seeing so many more essay questions, just nice people saying thank you. So, all right, I'll just say thank you so much, you guys. This has been, let me go to my last slide where I say thank you. It has been a complete, I get here, here it is. It has been a complete honor and pleasure to teach these classes over the last 3 months. Some of you, we've seen each other every Tuesday night for the whole summer, which is crazy. Others, it was your first time. No matter how long you've been here or how many classes you got, I hope you got something out of it. I hope you felt like you learned. I hope you felt interested. I hope you engaged with me. For those who came on and I heard your voices, don't be strangers. I'd love to connect with you guys someday. Come visit us at American Institute. And ultimately, I wish you all the best. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And I hope to have another online course coming soon. So stay tuned. We have our YouTube page that Sam sent. You can follow the school. Sam, will you put the school handles in there? If we ever have other courses, they'll be announced on our Instagram as well as the embassy Instagram, which is, or the embassy Instagram, I think everybody knows, but ours is americaninstitute.us. And we actually put a post, the last thing I'll say, we put a post on the US Embassy Instagram today advertising the last class, but we also asked for ideas and ideas for future online classes. So you guys are the best ones to give those ideas because you've been in these classes. So let me know what types of things you'd like to see, and we can try to get something put together. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening and hope to see you sometime soon.